Good morning, everyone. You guys hear me all right? It's kind of hard to tell up here. Great. Well, thank you for coming. Welcome. We're excited about this year's conference, the 5th Annual mHealth Conference. We have 275 people registered, I think, trickling in with traffic and trying to find parking here at Duke, but expect people to filter in and out. A big part of this conference is, of course, the all-star lineup that we've assembled throughout the day, but also yourselves getting to know each other. So feel free to reach out to the person sitting next to you if you don't know them, or meet with them and mingle with them in the atrium. But we're really excited about all of this. There's a variety of places where people are coming from to attend the conference. Large contingent from Duke, both from the university side, different graduate schools, undergrad, innovation entrepreneurship areas, and from the medical side, the clinical care delivery, research, and also same from UNC, and then from Wake Forest and a few other academic health centers in the area. But also we're grateful to have a lot of entrepreneurs and designers and freelancers and other industry folks in the audience. So there's a great mix of people here. So please get to know each other. I'll introduce myself briefly. I'm John O'Donnell, a digital health strategist at Smashing Boxes, one of the co-organizers of this conference this year with Erica here. At Smashing Boxes, I'm responsible for helping to cultivate client relationships and help solve problems and provide high-level product strategy on health initiatives. I was at Duke previously for 6 years. I did medical school here and did 1 year of residency before joining Smashing Boxes this past year.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica Levine. I am the programs director at the Duke Global Digital Health Science Center, and I work with Duke faculty and programmers to design, test, and disseminate digital health interventions, especially among medically vulnerable populations. This is our 5th annual conference. We're very excited to have everybody. Can I just ask, hands up if this is your first mHealth at Duke conference? Wow, so many newcomers. Welcome. Can you hands up if you're from Duke? Beautiful. Awesome. Hands up if you're from a software design firm in Durham or the Triangle area. Awesome. Welcome. Cool. And then hands up for everywhere else. Yeah, love it. Welcome. mHealth at Duke, for those of you who don't know, was founded in 2012 by Bernard Femeler and Joe McClernand, both of whom are going to be here today, with a small grant from the Duke School of Medicine's Interdisciplinary Colloquium. Since then, it's been a convening point for folks from all over, all disciplines and backgrounds around what used to be called mHealth and what is now just more broadly known as digital health. As the field has grown, so has mHealth at Duke. What started as a way to showcase digital health research at Duke to Duke has steadily evolved into one central way our whole community comes together to share ideas and inspiration. This year, we're capitalizing on everything the whole area Research Triangle has to offer by partnering with Smashing Boxes. The result is a practical, actionable conference.
Yeah, thanks. So the idea for this conference kind of stemmed from, I think, all of us having a sense that there are a number of healthcare problems out there, and we're trying to solve it using software and hardware and other digital solutions thoughtfully. So there's no need to really find new problems. I think we all know what they are, but we wanted to assemble this conference with the speakers and the posters and the sponsors and the product demos we'll have this afternoon to help move the needle a little bit, create some momentum in solving these problems and creating the network, and then helping to connect you with folks that you might not otherwise have connected with in general. So our goal for this conference is for each of you to walk out better equipped to help tackle these things. So it's not just an exposition of what's happened or what the current thinking is, but we want to instill some tools, some trends, insights, and help spur action to address those issues. We think the Triangle is definitely capable of making an impact, certainly locally, hopefully nationally and internationally. So you'll see from our lineup in the program that we have a variety of folks from different backgrounds, academia, industry, venture capital, and we have some startup product demos, and we have posters during the lunch hour, as you'll see down the hallway there. So we're really excited about this, and then most importantly, we have our stellar audience. So again, please connect with one another. If you need help connecting to others, find one of us. We can connect you to the right people as well. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So we could absolutely not do this without our sponsors, Cloud9, Duke University School of Nursing, the Addictions Division here at Duke, the Duke Master of Management in Clinical Informatics, and then Global Digital Health Science Center and Smashing Boxes. We really appreciate all of the institutional and extra institutional support that we get here at Duke to put on the conference. And then I wanted to give a special thank you and shout out to the people who help put this conference together every year. Our amazing mHealth at Duke steering committee with our co-founders, Smashing Boxes and the team over there have been amazing. And then I just want to give a special shout out to the woman you probably saw at the front when you walked in, Hallie Davis-Penders, our research and operations coordinator at Duke Digital Health. Please give her a high five when you see her. And then, so I just want to go through, this is a good way to connect with us. If you want to get the schedule on your phone, if you're tired of paper, you can just go to the App Store on your phone and download the event-based app, and then search for the life cycle of digital health science. If you want to get on the Wi-Fi, you can see here, and then connect with us on Twitter, and hashtag mHealth at Duke. And then here is our, you'll have the schedule in your app or on the program, but just to go through the highlights, we're gonna have two great speakers come up this morning, then we'll have a break, and then we'll have some presentations for you, and then lunch, and posters, networking, and then we'll have a great afternoon with more panels, some product demos, and a break in there, and then a discussion about how to grow and scale. So we hope you're joining us for the whole day. It'll be long, but fun. And then, I just want to say about lunch, please only grab lunch if you signed up for it. And if you want to meet and hang out and talk to people, we have spaces upstairs, outside. The ladies and gentlemen's rooms are down the hall back behind us. And I think that should be it.
Yeah, thank you. So as I prepare to introduce Drew here, just want to, again, advise you to dig in, listen deeply to the speakers and panelists, engage with the posters, and ask questions. So there may be some opportunities for Q&A during the actual speaking sessions. If not, please come up and find us throughout the day to really help push this forward. We're all in this together, you know, and we're in this for three reasons that I really see. One is for our own individual health and the lives of those that we love, our elderly grandparents, our children. We're in this for our care delivery system with our burned out providers and hard to control costs. And we're also in this for our national healthcare system, where every dollar we spend in healthcare is squeezing out dollars for other things like education and social aid. So trying to advance digital health is imperative for the livelihood of everyone. With that, I just want to introduce our keynote speaker, Drew, as he comes up to help set up his computer. Drew is definitely someone you should listen to. So he's the CEO and co-founder of Validic, and he serves, this Validic platform is the leading digital health platform for connecting patient-generated data from apps, wearables, and in-home medical devices to the healthcare system. At Validic, Drew leads the strategy of Validic, driving key market initiatives and working closely with senior executives at client and partner organizations to stay ahead of the innovation curve. Drew was recently a member of the Federal Advisory Committee Joint API Task Force on Meaningful Use 3. Additionally, sits on the Consumer Technology Association Health and Fitness Technology Board, and contributes to the Health and Fitness subcommittees on interoperability, privacy and security, and standards. As head of a CTA subcommittee on standards, Drew is charged with helping define standards for physical activity across wearable devices. Drew believes strongly that digital health will reshape healthcare. He speaks, writes, and provides interviews on a variety of digital health topics, including connected health, the future of digital health technology, interoperability and data access, digital health privacy and security, open data and standards, as well as practical use cases regarding how consumer health devices can be used in clinical settings to improve the quality of care, better health outcomes, and reduce healthcare costs. Please welcome Drew.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to stand out here and be a little closer to you, if that's okay. So I'd like to start off back in 2005. This is a photo of the introduction ceremony for Pope Benedict in 2005. And then I'm going to jump to the introduction ceremony for Pope Francis in 2013. Something happened in those 8 years. We all got a computer in our pocket, right? It became something that is second nature to us now, but did not exist previously. And this has the power to completely transform healthcare. It has already transformed many other industries. And this is actually what my company, Validic, is helping to do, is to bring this transformation to healthcare. So quick backstory on what we do. My company, Validic, we connect patient-generated data from digital health apps, wearables, and in-home medical devices into the healthcare system. We connect with nearly 400 apps and devices today. These are your wearables, your FDA-listed Class 2 devices like blood pressure monitors, glucose meters, pulse oximeters, your health apps. We standardize and normalize the data from all those disparate sources and provide one simple connection into the healthcare system. One thing that I want to also call out here is our mission at Validic, which is to improve the quality of human life by building technology that makes personal data actionable. And really, it's this last piece, that making personal data actionable, that's really important. This is something that's very important to me personally, and we'll talk more about that and why as we go through the talk today. And so now I'd like to actually jump back to 2005, and let's look at some trends since 2005. And you'll notice that the slides that I chose, 2005 and 2013, that was actually a very big shift, and something very interesting happened during that time. So if we look at the US smartphone penetration in that space, we went from 2% in 2005 to over 80% today. So everyone has a smartphone. Not everyone, but many people. Interestingly enough, the first mHealth at Duke conference was in 2013. I was there. And we had some amazing technologies presented. Bernard, who I actually just saw walk in, was presenting at that time on a smoking cessation app that used the sensors in your phone to track your GPS location and knew when you were going to go to a bar to hang out with your friends, and knew that if you stepped outside the bar to like ping you for a message to say, don't pull out a cigarette. Very, very innovative technologies. Another trend that we've seen is the growth in the United States of EHR adoption. So EHR adoption, for right or for wrong, I'm not here to debate that, has become practically ubiquitous in the healthcare system. We're approaching the 90+% mark for EHRs being adopted in healthcare. We also have, in that amount of time, on an adjusted per capita rate, increased our per patient spend by 65% since 2005. So if you look at these three things, like healthcare is looking pretty strong, right? We have a personal computer in everyone's pocket. We have a connected electronic health system for every doctor. And we spend 65% more per patient. Like, this should be a panacea. The other interesting trend is more and more companies are being funded to actually take advantage of these trends. So healthcare is great, right? Like, everyone uses digital health on a daily basis to provide patient care. Unfortunately, that's not the case. However, I think it can be, and that's what I want to talk about today. First, I want to introduce you to Michael. So Michael is 51 years old. He's a type 2 diabetic. To hear Michael tell his story, he says, look, people look at me, they think I'm fat, they think I'm lazy, they think I don't try. The reality is, everyone who has ever turned 40 in Michael's family has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. His brother, his sister, his father, his grandmother. Michael turned 40, he got type 2 diabetes. And Michael's not lazy. In fact, he's a bit of a data geek. He tracks his glucose 5 to 7 times a day. He exercises 5 times a week. He'll tell you he's at the YMCA at 6 a.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. He watches what he eats. And yet, he's been relatively unable to control his A1C. It's been really difficult for him to do it. So difficult, in fact, that Michael he was going to his endocrinologist, and the way that his diabetes was being managed, the way that his medication was being managed, is he'd go in every 3 to 6 months, he'd get a new A1C test, the endocrinologist would ask him some questions, he might make some medication adjustments, send Michael on his way. Michael was frustrated with this. He said, I'm taking data on real time. So he actually took to exporting a PDF sheet with all of his glucose values and faxing it to his endocrinologist once a month, which of course was sort of immediately discarded, right? So Michael got frustrated, and he actually left his endocrinologist. And he went to, he left his endocrinologist and found a new endocrinologist at Sutter. And Michael lives in Silicon Valley in Northern California. So I'm not saying that he went to Sutter Health because I'm promoting Sutter Health. I'm saying that it's good that he went to Sutter Health because shortly after Michael joined Sutter, he was enrolled in a program that Validic was a part of as part of a new pilot demonstration for the ONC around diabetes care. So the ONC has been working with Accenture for the last 2 years to understand patient-generated health data and its applications in healthcare. How can we actually get data from patients into care? What's the workflow? Does it actually make a meaningful difference? And as part of this, the ONC funded a pilot demonstration that would look at how data comes from a variety of multiple sources, flows into the EHR, into the doctor's workflow so that there can actually be some improved care. And what we did for this particular pilot is we connected glucose meters, blood pressure monitors, weight scales, activity trackers, and a nutrition application. All that data flowed into Epic, and there was various dashboard views built inside of the EHR for the clinician to view. One of them was a prioritized stratified patient list so that every morning a care manager would come in and they would look and they'd get a red, yellow, green dashboard of their patients for who they needed to reach out for. Red being, hey, there's something that's concerning here. Someone's fallen outside a range. Maybe they haven't taken a reading in the last 24 hours. Yellow being, hey, there's a flag here. Something is trending outside of a range that we think you might want to look at. Green being, hey, everything is looking okay. So Michael got enrolled in this program shortly after joining Sutter. And he was immediately thrilled because the data that he was already collecting was now going somewhere. And that's all he really wanted, was for the data that he was taking on a daily basis to actually end up in the EHR where a doctor could look at it. What he didn't expect was that 2 weeks into the program, the diabetic nutritionist called him and said, hey, how's it going? Things are looking really good. You're tracking your glucose regularly, 5 to 7 times a day. Great. Your nutrition is looking good. We like what you're eating. You're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. Your exercise is looking excellent. But what's going on between 7 and 9 p.m. at night? Because your glucose levels are actually reading a little high, but you're not logging any more food. So they started talking about it, and Michael said, you know what? It turns out I'm a snacker. Like, my kids are in college, but they live at home. At night, we're watching TV, maybe watching a game. There's chips, there's popcorn. I grab a handful, I munch. And so he cut that out, and within 30 days, his A1C dropped by 0.5 point. That's the most movement in A1C he's ever had, regardless of medication, regardless of other behavior change. And the amazing thing for Michael is that he actually now feels like he can control his diabetes. He said, I have a lifelong goal of hitting 6 on my A1C. He's at 7.5 after this drop. He said, I have a lifelong goal of hitting 6, and now I feel like I can actually get there. So I have a question for you. What did Michael actually do differently in this situation? He still took his glucose, he still tracked his nutrition, he still exercised. What did he do differently? He actually didn't do anything differently. The difference was that the data actually got somewhere where someone could make a decision on it. There was no innovation in this care. The only thing that changed was that Michael's data got somewhere where someone could take an action on it. And that is what's next for us in digital health. We've been so focused on innovation, and we have a lot of really amazing innovation, and that should definitely continue, and it will. But now is the time for us to actually focus on integration. We have enough technology to do amazing things to impact patient care today. The key is that we have to integrate it and bring it all together. So I want to pause here for a second. How many of you in this room are using a wearable device? How many of you are using more than one? A few? All right. My fellow geeks in the room. So this is really great because the future that I see is a fully integrated future, and I call it the connected human. This is what we're going to all look like. If this is our future, I want out, by the way. This, by the way, is Chris Daines, who's considered the most connected human. And if you've never seen his work, he actually has some really interesting insights. He's known for connecting data from over 700 disparate devices and data sources and apps and all these things to monitor things. He's completely transformed the way he lives because of it. He's the uber quantified self guy. The future that I see for digital health is actually the opposite of this. It's something I call invisible healthcare. So invisibility in terms of technology does not mean that you don't actually see it. invisibility, when it comes to technology, means that it's something that is so seamlessly integrated into your life that you don't notice it. So how many folks here have an Amazon Echo in their house? All right, some early adopters, that's great. It's nice, right? You go downstairs, you say, Alexa, give me a flash briefing. Alexa, play NPR, whatever it is, and it just plays. Do you even think about it anymore? Like initially, pretty cool, right? But now it's something that's such a part of your life, it's so easy to use, and that is the key for invisibility. It's something that is just a natural part of your day-to-day life, very easy and simple to use, seamlessly integrates into your system, into your life. There's a quote here from Jared Spool, who's a user experience designer. He says, when good design is done well, it becomes invisible. It's only when it's done poorly that we notice it. And I tell you what, when I talk to folks, to patients who are using digital health today, they notice it. The key is that we've not designed for invisibility. But we can, and there's actually a very simple formula, and I would like to impart something on all of you to take away so that you can think about this in your daily lives. Innovation, which we have in spades, plus integration equals invisibility. We can get to an invisible healthcare system. We just have to combine the innovation with integration into a seamless way. We actually talk about this invisibility all the time. It's something that you, especially those of you at Duke and at UNC, and even those of us in healthcare technology, we actually talk about it all the time, but we use a different word to describe it. We call it patient experience. So you guys all been in a room and you're joking, and you're like, yeah, what does patient experience even mean, right? Which is true. It's like one of those ambiguous things. It's just like, what does interoperability really mean? Epic says it means that they do it. But patient experience, I'm defining right now. Patient experience is invisibility. The patient experience, the experience that patients want, is to not be a patient. That's the experience they want. They want to be treated like a person. And so when we talk about patient experience, it's really important for us to think about what is the actual experience with the technology. How do we make this invisible to the patient? I'll give you an example of when this really hit home for me. A few years ago, I was at a healthcare user experience conference, and one of my co-presenters in my session was working on a continuous blood pressure wearable. It uses the LEDs on your watch to get blood pressure in real time. And when they were in trials, the patients loved it. They said, this is great. We're able to get some really strong data. But then they asked what the experience was, and the patients kept saying, the subjects kept saying, hey, you know, I wear this now on a daily basis for this trial, and I kind of use it as my watch because it's on my wrist. Is there any way that you could just hide the blood pressure? Because I'm in a meeting, I'm checking the time, I don't need to be reminded I have hypertension, right? Like, I don't need to be reminded that was a really stressful meeting and I need to get the heck out of there. I know that. I know my blood pressure is elevated. So can you just show me the time, right? And by making that simple user interface change, all of a sudden, they were still getting the same data into healthcare that they needed to get. They were still able to do all the things that they needed to do. But the patient experience was much better, and it made that patient say, oh, I'm going to put my watch on today, and my watch happens to get my blood pressure. The ultimate patient experience will be realized when we can simply live our lives and the healthcare around us is invisible. And by the way, this does not just apply to patients. Let's talk about provider experience for a second. So I introduced you to Michael earlier. And Michael, I just realized that you're coming up here to talk next. Not that Michael. I introduced you to Michael earlier. Now I'd like to introduce you to Maria. So Maria was a nurse at a diabetes care manager at Sutter Health. And Maria, her life was very interesting before this trial because she's telling me that, hey, I have so many patients to see, I don't know how to tell which one needs me today. I don't know who to reach out to. There's literally not enough hours in the day for me to reach out to everybody I'm supposed to. It's just not possible. And so one of the most interesting things about this ONC diabetes pilot is that we got to do a site visit. And so on day one, we talked about the technology. We totally geeked out on that. Day two, we actually went to talk with the patients and the providers. And this is where I met Maria. And the response that she had around the pilot was phenomenal. She said, look, it's amazing because I can come in and every single morning know exactly who the patients are who are most at risk, who are having challenges, and who I need to reach out to today. The other thing that surprised me is I talked to an endocrinologist there who said, what I love about this program is that the data comes in and I don't have to do anything to get it, because usually what I do for my patients who are high-risk diabetes or who high-risk diabetics, I prescribe them a Dexcom continuous glucose monitor. The data does not get into Sutter. Does not interface with their Epic. So I get their logins. I go home at night on the evenings and weekends. I log in on my personal computer into their Dexcom account. I pull up my Epic notes on my laptop, and I read the Dexcom notes and type in what I think should happen, what I think should be the next course of action for their care into Epic. Like, spare time. This is what doctors are doing. They care about the patient, right? The challenge is that there's no way for them to do that in their normal daily workflow. And I'm sure many of you providers, like I'm seeing some head nods, this is a real frustration. So unless we actually develop a program of care for the patient that the providers manage that brings the data into the EHR, into the doctor's workflow in a way that's meaningful on a daily basis, until we make this invisible for the provider, then it doesn't actually really work. We can make cool technology invisible to the patients all day, and we've seen, the rise in wearables, and we've seen some really interesting blood pressure monitoring solutions. There's great glucose monitor solutions that now will passively collect data with the continuous monitoring and all of that. That's great for the patient. Still a problem because it doesn't actually get into the clinician's workflow in a way that's meaningful. And my counsel to those of you in the room who are physicians and administrators is that you have to develop a program of care that you enroll a patient into. The patient understands the goals of the program. They understand what they're trying to achieve. They understand why their data is going into the system. And most importantly, the providers understand what those goals are, and the care managers, the care teams actually understand what they're all working toward. That's really critical. So I just sort of dumped a lot about kind of where we are today and the challenges. So what can we actually do to leverage integration to build the future of digital health? For that, I'm going to actually pull back a graph that I showed you earlier, which is the % of US smartphone penetration. Again, in 2005, 2006 is like 2%, 3% penetration. 2007, 6%. And all of a sudden, it started to really tick up. Do you guys remember what happened in smartphones around that time? iPhone. So this is where we were in 2005. How many of you had a Palm Trio or a BlackBerry, something similar? Yeah, I really thought I was cool with the Palm Trio. It was a really big, bulky device. It was really cool, though. It was really cool. And the functionality of the Palm Trio was actually basically the same as the functionality of the first iPhone. Like, there was no innovation in the new iPhone that wasn't available in the Palm Trio. Today, we have the iPhone or the iClone, right? We have the very sexy, almost thinking for us personal computers in our pocket that literally do everything. As I'm saying this, you guys are all probably like getting the itch to check your phone to see if there's like something that, I promise it's okay. You can check it in like 10 minutes. So the amazing thing that Apple did was not that they innovated with new technology to bring the iPhone out in 2007. The amazing thing that Apple did is they innovated on the design to integrate all of that technology together in a way that was a seamless experience for the consumer. And most importantly, what Apple did was, if you remember, they only rolled out with AT&T at first. Do you remember this? And then they slowly got Verizon on board and all this. Apple had to innovate with the carriers. Apple changed the way phones are integrated with carriers. Before that, carriers were white labeling phones. They put their own software on there. Apple said, no, you do it our way or no way. And AT&T was the first one to raise their hand. So Apple put a ton of time into what is the experience of having this device? How can we design a seamless, invisible process for the consumer? And that's what ended up taking off. Today in digital health, we're the Palm Trio phase. We need to get to the iPhone phase. So how do we do that? The way to do that is by applying the way to achieve, invisible healthcare is we must apply our innovation to integration. We have to explicitly design integration. And that is where we'll get to invisibility. So it's great that there's new sensors coming on the market. It's great that there's a new app for monitoring a certain condition. But until we actually apply the really sort of next-gen innovation and thinking to the actual integration process, we're going to be sort of stuck in this holding pattern of not being able to really move forward. This is, by the way, what we are working on every day at Validic. This is one of the things that we're working on, because initially, when we started to connect with all these devices, what we actually found was, well, this is pretty simple at first. We grabbed the API from Fitbit. We grabbed an API from Runkeeper. There was a glucose app. We grabbed the API from there. Pretty soon, we ran out of APIs. And we thought, well, we don't have everything connected yet, so what do we do? So we noticed that a lot of devices have Bluetooth connections. And so back in 2014, we acquired a company. We got the ability to go directly to Bluetooth. And what we found when we were actually doing those Bluetooth connections was that Bluetooth is actually a really frustrating process for the patients. Because what happens is that you pair the device, but then every single time you use it, you have to open an app in order to do it. And if you don't open the app when you take your blood pressure reading, you miss the reading, right? And you have to retake it. That's annoying. So we actually invented a technology for passive Bluetooth syncing for iOS and Android. So once you pair your Bluetooth monitor, as long as your phone is on and within range, like within 30 feet, you don't actually even have to have your phone active. You don't have to have an app active or anything. You just have to take your blood pressure reading and the data flows up automatically, right? So from a patient experience perspective, seamless, invisible. That's what we're really going for. The other thing that happened was I thought, well, this is great. So now we've got APIs, we've got Bluetooth, that's done. That's all the devices in the world. And it turns out that the vast majority of devices that are in patients' hands today don't have Bluetooth. They picked them up at a retail pharmacy 3, 4, 5 years ago, for $20 or $40, and they don't have Bluetooth chips. So these are blood pressure monitors, these are glucose meters, these are pulse oximeters that people have that are either using in their homes for their regular care, but there's no connectivity. So we actually built some technology to solve this. I want to play a quick video to introduce that. Every day, technology is helping us become more connected. Connected to each other, connected to ourselves, connected to the world around us. We share this world with 7.3 billion fellow travelers, each of us with our own hopes, our own dreams, our own needs. Just like everyone needs food and water and shelter, at some point in their lives, everyone needs healthcare. We recognize that about 90% of medical devices that are in the hands of patients with chronic conditions today are actually inaccessible through conventional technology means. So, these are what we consider non-connected devices.
Most people think healthcare really happens at doctor's offices and hospitals, but if you really think about it, the majority of time is actually when you're at home or you're away from the medical setting.
The challenges are a lot of the data that doctors need to make clinical decisions sometimes aren't available. A lot of time is spent trying to get accurate information coming back from patients, especially for chronic patients. Literally seen patients walk in with 3-ring binders that they've, have graph paper that they've tried to store things on. Even though there's a lot of devices out there that patients are able to tap into and pull data from, there's still a lot of data that's stuck in these old legacy type devices.
All of these devices almost universally have a screen that displays the number, the readout to the patient. And so I thought, I can deposit a check with my phone by just scanning the check and sending that off to my bank. Why can't I do the same thing with my medical device? Why can't I simply hold my phone over the medical device, quickly grab the number and have that sent to my healthcare provider in order to better manage my chronic condition?
When we heard about VitalSnap, we thought it was a great idea. It lets people continue to use the devices that they're familiar with and give better visibility to their care team of what's happening, even if they don't have a connected device.
The phone is already an incredibly personal item that people feel comfortable with, and we can just allow them to use what they already know to participate in their own healthcare. Simply take a reading as you normally would, open up your phone, pull up the app, hold the app over the device, and instantly the data that's on the screen flows directly to the provider.
It's a lifetime commitment to managing your condition, right? Anything you can do to make that more enjoyable for the patient, to improve that experience for them, to give them back something throughout their day, and still capture that level of information that they know they can give back to their provider is really valuable.
You just want to live your life. You want to be able to spend time with your family, whatever it is that you want to do. You want to really be able to do that without worrying about your health, and you want tracking your health to be easy. I really think in the future that as we get to more value-based care and less dollar at every visit kind of care, that things like this really enable that to happen.
True connected health is enabled with VitalSnap because you get all the value from your care team that you would expect from a high-end device, but the ease of usability of really any device you might have.
The promise of this technology to actually be able to provide care to those who need it most is so meaningful. I think we're going to actually be able to engage patients in a way that just hasn't been possible before. So VitalSnap was actually the technology that Michael used to connect his glucose meter in the ONC diabetes pilot. One of the coolest things about that pilot was that we got to do some ethnographic research with the patients on what the experience was. And what they said was, you know what? It was minimally more difficult at first. There was a small change in behavior that I had to do. But once I did it a couple days in a row, it became second nature. And it was totally worth it to me because I knew that the day was going somewhere that was important. There's one other innovation that I'm really excited for in the connected health space that Validic is working on taking advantage of. It's a little bit of a preview. So I asked earlier how many of you had like an Amazon Echo in your home. And we all have the Google Voice Assistant. We all have Apple Siri on our phones. I think that those technologies provide a huge opportunity in healthcare for connecting care, for connecting patients, for helping to bridge the gap. And so, my 3-year-old right now, he can run around and he can say, Alexa, play songs by Elmo, and all of a sudden he has his own playlist, right? And he does that, and he loves dancing to it. But what if I just said, Alexa, tell Duke that my blood pressure is 131/95. Or Alexa, tell UNC Healthcare that my glucose reading is 124. Simple, simple, simple. And all they have to do is take a reading and tell an assistant that happened. So we're going to be releasing that functionality here pretty soon. I'm really excited for it. And as I'm sort of coming to an end, the reason why this technology is so important, the home technology, as well as the ability to sort of apply invisibility to healthcare technology, is that we have an aging population. So as we all know, we're living longer, which is great. Many of us are aging in home. My 86-year-old grandparents who are still alive are aging in home. The challenge is that it's not that elderly folks are bad with technology. It's just that they have different technology challenges. My grandma, for example, she can't hold a phone very well because she has tremors, right? So I was talking with the CEO of the AARP a few months ago, and she said that, this is a crazy statistic, by the way, she said that 2/3 of all Americans who have ever been 65 or older are alive today. 2/3 of all Americans, 250-year country, right? It's not that long. 2/3 of all Americans who have ever been 65 or older are alive today. And by 2050, They'll be 25% of our population. So this is a huge opportunity for those of us in digital health to think about their use case, the aging use case. And I'll give you an example of why this is so important. This is a vulnerable population. There was my other grandma, my dad's mom, she died 2 years ago after being hospitalized with COPD. She died about 48 hours after. And it turns out that this is really common. So there's a study in Ontario that showed that for patients who are 65 and older, they die, 9% of them die within the first 30 days of being hospitalized for COPD. And 27% will die within a year. Very high death rate. My grandmother, she lived in an assisted nursing facility. When they found her, she was actually slumped over her nightstand reaching for the call button on her wall. And my first thought is, first of all, it's like, it's really frustrating, right? But my first thought after I kind of got over the emotional reaction is, why was she reaching for a call button? Why couldn't she say, Alexa, I need help, right? Why couldn't there be a sensor in her room that detects vague motion that says, oh, Betty's not usually up at 2 in the morning making these kind of movements. Maybe we should just have someone check on her, right? The side mirrors on my 2008 Volvo tells me if there's a car in my blind spot, but in 2015, there's no way for a camera to notice that my grandma's making movements that are unnatural. That is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We have the technology to do all of these things. We have the technology to bring digital health to the masses. We have the technology to save people's lives with it. And that's our opportunity, right? All of this stuff is here today. There will be more innovation. There will be new sensors. There will be great new things. But unless we bring it all together, unless we design for integration, unless we design for invisibility, it's not going to be possible. So again, I want to come back to our mission. Our mission at Validic is to improve the quality of human life by building technology that makes personal data actionable. We have the technology to do it today. We just have to turn our focus on integration. Innovation plus integration equals invisibility. And I hope as a father of a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old that you'll join me to make invisible healthcare a reality. Thank you. I think I have about 5 minutes for questions, if there are any. Love to chat.
Thank you, Drew, and Validic team for your passion and your mission. How does this change with genomics and the data that's going to be available through some technology that we're designing the different sequencing in our own bodies?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So the question is, how does this change with genomics? So it does and it doesn't. It does massively, but the change is not going to happen overnight. And when I say that, so first let me just baseline say, literally we need no more innovation to actually make hugely meaningful impacts in patient care today. Like, I firmly believe that. Now, with genomics, whoa boy, huge opportunity. So what I have on my wrist right now is something that is getting, phenotypic data that is very unique to me. Right now, this data doesn't actually tell me that much about me personally. But if you could combine that with my risk factors that are unique to me, it might be that my phenotype and my genotype might tell me something really important. There's a lot of research to be done in that space. There's a new company called Helix that's coming out that is basically, 23andMe sequences a part of your genome, and they give you some really interesting information. Helix sequences your entire genome. It's relatively inexpensive, and what they do is they actually white label this to other companies who are building systems out there. So one of the things that they're going to be releasing is, and some of you may have seen this, is a partnership with a wine tasting app where you get a genetic test, and it tells you what kind of wine you're going to like based on your genetic test. That's not necessarily digital health, but it's an indication of how we can start to personalize things leveraging the genome. And I think that once we understand more about us and who we are as individuals, we can start to put the right device on the right folks and monitor for really the right conditions. Yeah. Yeah.
Not sure if the mic is working. Hello. So integration is key. However, the integrator who holds the data has a lot of power, right? Is Validic working on a way to share that data in the future in an open source manner, such as putting that data on a blockchain that anyone can access?
Yeah. So the short answer is that's not our problem to solve, but it is a problem to solve. So Validic, when data is shared through Validic, it is permissioned by a patient specifically for access, in the healthcare setting. So since we're at Duke, I'll use this as an example. A patient would explicitly say, I would like Duke University access to my Fitbit data, and it's delivered for that purpose. We're not I don't have all of the Fitbit data in the world, and I don't even know who that patient is. And so we're the conduit to make that data available. But I think that there's open data initiatives with the government, which hopefully will continue with the new administration. And I think that we're seeing more and more open data initiatives amongst academic universities. And it's critical. Like, in order for folks like you to be able to do research on large data sets, we have to have it. It's just not something that I can actually solve with my data today. It's not really it's a solution that was designed as a data conduit and enabler, not as a data repository. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've described a lot of digital health solutions that involve real-time transmission of sensor data to a provider, but I would say most doctors' offices probably don't have the capacity to respond to alarm values in real time.
Totally.
How is that navigated?
Yeah, great question. So I always say, if you feel like you are being expected to do something unnatural as a provider with this data, you're doing it wrong. So a couple of things. First, the seamless integration into the current workflow is critical. This data should not ever take the place of pick up the phone and call 911. What's the first thing that happens when you call a health system? Is it says, if this is an emergency, hang up and call 911, right? Like, that has to still be critical. I mean, it's not really directly answering your question. Your question is, if someone logs a blood pressure reading and it's whatever, 400 over 120, or if it's 65 over 20, whatever it is, like, there needs to be immediate care. The truth is that that's a patient education opportunity. If you take a reading and it's this level, today that's something that we need to work with patients to understand that that's a critical reading. I don't think that we should expect today, until we actually get a more fully integrated solution, that that the burden goes on to the care provider. What we can do is raise alerts up in the in-basket inside of Epic, for example. But I think that relying on the technology to actually put sort of an emergency response system into action, I think I don't think we're there yet as an industry. Hopefully we'll get there. I think we will. Yeah. Thanks.